Gamers, welcome to a very, very special episode of Conversations Live. This is our 5th episode, part of a double header that we've planned for the July 4th weekend. So hopefully everyone's having a safe and happy holiday and you're ready to chill out and lay back for that long weekend and take it all in. But we have a very important panel set up for you today with some amazing women in gaming. It's one of the things that we've heard come out of E3, right? We've been talking about diversity, inclusion, and equity in the industry. And I felt that it was very important for us to do something very special on the show and bring it to the ground level, right? Because we control the communities, we run the online gaming forums, we are the players that are in the space. And so for change to really occur, it's wonderful that's happening at the top and we're finally shining a light on these things. But more importantly, we need to start making change and initiating change in those communities that we're also ingrained in at the ground level. And I thought one of the ways that it would be great for us to do that is to hear the stories from the real hardcore gamers that are involved every day, that are participating in everything that you see from, you know, esports to Call of Duty to, you know, casual gaming to all the gaming that you can think of. You know, when we look at gaming as a whole, you know, we're over a couple of billion players right now. I think it's like 2.6 billion the last time they took some numbers for 2020 and 2021. So that's crazy. And that's split worldwide. And it goes up and down depending on how many folks are online. But when you put those numbers together, you're looking at almost a 50-50 split between the genders. And so whether you accept it or not, like we are, you know, hand in hand in this amazing gaming industry, but the representation, in my opinion, is not where it should be. Because if we have 50% of our gamers who are women, right, then there is a big gap in the representation that should be there. And we're talking about gaming at all levels, whether you're a casual gamer or a hardcore gamer, right? And so I'm going to do something very different today, which I usually don't do, because, you know, I'm a borderline narcissist, I'll say it. I am actually going to hand the reins of being host today to Des Barbs. She is a wonderful content creator on TikTok, so please check her out. She is going to help me host this panel and facilitate this conversation, because I want to take a seat. I want to listen. I want to hear what's being said, and I want to take that with me, and I want to initiate changes. I think that's very important for me to consider myself a male ally in this space. The first thing I have to do is listen to what's happening, right, and be thoughtful of what my fellow peer gamers are saying. And so I'm going to do some quick introductions. Like I said, Des Barbs is going to be our co-host. She is a TikTok content creator, also hardcore gamer, comic book enthusiast. So we're very happy to have her here and help us. Catwoman92 is also an amazing content creator. And if you look behind her, my God, she has just the most fantastic gaming collection. It makes me so jealous and envious sometimes that she's actually made me step up my game. And she's going to give us some great perspective because she is deep in that world. Veda Cruz is an industry lawyer, right, in the video game industry, which is amazing. But outside of that, she is also a hardcore gamer. And, you know, if you check out her Instagram, she is on like some of the craziest, most amazing adventures that I've ever seen. And so, you know, after we're done with this, I will definitely put everyone's names down and their socials so you can follow them and see their adventures, because outside of that, they're just amazing ladies to follow on social media. And then Kati D, she is an illustrator for comic books and also a hardcore gamer. We had a couple of discussions on the previous show about some of the amazing t-shirts that she has. And so, you know, I think she just recently built a awesome machine, which I saw on her Instagram page. It's beastly. Yeah. So she's going to be, you know, going on some raids and taking people out. And so, as I promised, I'm going to pass it off to Des Barbs. I'm going to shut my mouth and I'm going to listen intently. And I hope the rest of you do too, because we're about to have an amazing show. And so thank you all for listening. And that's Barb's. It's yours.
Hello, guys. So I definitely wanted to jump in on this conversation, considering that, you know, I was a comic book nerd and I love video games. And when I was younger, like even in high school, I would tell people, oh my gosh, like, yeah, like I love Batman, like I love Superman. And then it's like automatically they want to like test me, like test my knowledge. And they're like, oh, well, you know, issue 23 like given out March 23rd, like what happened in this comic book? And it's like, all right. But like I always ended up knowing more than the guys, and like they didn't like that. And it was like conversation shut down automatically. And I was like, I just wanted to talk about how cool Batman is. And especially because also I'm studying computer science, and a lot of guys are like, really? You don't look like you'd be a computer science major. Maybe you're like liberal arts. And I'm like, I mean, love liberal arts, but like, and I'm usually the only girl in my class, which is also kind of crazy. But enough about me. Let's get to the main part of the show. I want to take this moment to hear about you guys' experiences and the challenges that you face because you're a woman in anything like the video game world or like comic books and stuff like that. Things that guys or anybody really has told you. So I think we should start with Catwoman.
I think we all experience the same thing. As soon as we say we like something, we get tested and tested. And no matter what you say, it's, you know, most guys don't listen to it. They just are like, oh, she gave me an answer. What's the next quiz I'm going to give her on what subject? I think we all go through that a lot.
Veda?
So I guess for me, some challenges come with general toxicity online. I've had a couple instances, for example, playing League of Legends. We all know how toxic that game can be.
Ooh, that's a big one.
Overwatch, yeah. I've had so many comments where as soon as they find out I'm a girl, I don't know how. Maybe my username tips them off. I don't know, something I say, the way I type. I don't know what it is. But then I get like the sandwich comments and, you know, you suck automatically, go back to the kitchen. Like I've gotten those, and they used to bother me way back in the day. Now not so much, because like they're just either projecting or, you know, they're dealing with something, so we leave it to them. But definitely like actual toxicity within gaming when you're actually gaming, and then as well as online with my Instagram posts. I used to get, especially when I used to cosplay, I used to get really weird comments about my appearance and stuff, and it wasn't always about like what I was doing, like the actual game I was playing or something. It was more like focusing on everything else that had nothing to do with the topic at hand, and that can make you feel like you're not part of the community sometimes. So that's another challenge I faced.
Yeah, definitely me too. Like, especially I have like a girl, like, you know, gamer tag is like automatically get a whole bunch of guys like adding me. And I'm like, I don't even know y'all. How about you, Katie?
So yeah, on top of the gaming stuff, I mentioned to that Game Dragon before, I play a lot of World of Warcraft. I've played it since it first came out. So, I mean, early on, like, it's kind of part of it is like being in voice chat with people to communicate the harder content. So like, people knew I was a girl right away. And like back in the day, it's not so bad now, but especially back then, like, you couldn't have a female voice in a Discord, or at the time it was Ventrilo. You couldn't have a female voice without someone saying something about it. It would be anything from like, oh, there's a girl in the raid, to, oh, there's a girl in the raid. Like, you know, like it's one or the other. But the other experience I have is like, again, like I'm at a way better point in my career where there's much more respect involved. But when I was first starting out, I even had clients that either like would finally discover I was a girl, and they're like, oh, you know, maybe I'm not too set on working with you because it is kind of like a male dominant industry, illustration, comic work, etc. And at one point there was this guy who was happy to work with me, but he was like, honestly, with the way you illustrate, I thought you were a dude. And I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, I don't even understand. Okay. But yeah, so it's been interesting, but I will say it has gotten a lot better now that I've like established myself too. So
Yeah, it's just a little disheartening that like you have to establish yourself.
Yeah, it's like, could I just have a easy start maybe? Like, just let me do my thing.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. And like since we're on the topic of like the toxicity in video games when it comes to women, do you guys think that there's enough like representation of women like through the characters, through the protagonists and stuff like that? We can start with Vita.
I think we're getting there. It depends on the game, and I have also noticed that a lot of indie games tend to incorporate a more diverse cast of characters and people, and I think that that's great strides moving forward. But I think there's still work to be done. Maybe certain genres don't lend themselves to that, but it'd be nice, let's say, to have a female perspective at the table, at the decision-making table, when these games are being made, because then you'll know, okay, we have the actual female perspective to let others be informed on what's the right call here, instead of just relying on a more narrow mindset. So
Yeah.
we're getting there.
No, I definitely agree. Like you can definitely tell like a man made those characters for sure. How about you, Catwoman?
It has gotten a lot better. If you play older games that were geared towards like girls, they're terrible. They're hollow characters. The puzzles in them are like super simple. Like, oh, girls don't want to think, so we'll give them something easy to do. But now everything's getting more gender neutral. Like Last of Us 2 is a solid game that men and women can both say, hey, yeah, this is a fun game, unless you're one of those toxic men that hates Last of Us 2. But you have good characters now. We have solid representation. It's not just like either something that little girls like or big-breasted women in our games that are supposed to be like, we gave you a woman in here. Come on.
No, seriously, like that's exactly what I meant. That you could tell that a man made that character. How about you, Katie?
I'm kind of in the same opinion here. Like, I feel like it has gotten a lot better overall. I mean, I'm someone who, like, one of my first few games were like Pokemon, right? And you didn't even get a chance to pick a girl character. It was only the guy. And like, in the sense of like, I knew the manga and the show at the time. So I was like, okay, well, it makes sense, I guess. But like, there were a lot of games around that time where it's like, male protagonist, oh, there's some titties over there. Male protagonist, male protagonist, like, and it's like, for me, I was so much of like, I just love video games that like, I guess I didn't think a whole lot about it, but I feel a lot more comfortable in the space now where there's so many games that there's just a lot more inclusion. But I also agree with the comment, like, I want more women at the table for these games. And especially, again, even in my industry, like, it's still really male dominant. Like, there needs to be more female voices, just more inclusion. But I definitely do feel like it's getting a lot better.
Yeah, I totally agree. How about you, Dragon? You've been quiet for quite some time.
Well, I'm not gonna lie and say here that I was born woke, right? I wasn't. It's something that takes time and understanding. And I would play with women in online games before, and they would mention how certain things were disrespectful, or like they were offended by these characters and how they were portrayed. And I had to take a step back and ask myself, like, yeah, like this, they're right. This doesn't make sense. I mean, if you look 10 years ago, right, I feel like every female character had the same body build, right? They were all heavily busted, half naked. It felt like, especially in things that were coming in from Japan, right? Like, it was just, it was crazy. And even me, like, being a dude then, I was like, I don't understand how this fits into the story. I understand why they're over sexualized this way. Like, they're already badass. Like, why do they need to be so heavily over sexualized to, matter? And that's what it felt like. It felt, and I've been in plenty of rooms where, I'd hear stupid things like, get your boyfriend to play for you, right? And as soon as a guy starts losing, right, to a woman online, oh my God, the first thing that I would hear is, oh, she's a bitch, right? Like, that is the most used word ever in online gaming, when you're talking about toxicity and men and women being in the same room, men will use that word very freely, and things have gotten better, don't get me wrong, but it's still there. Like, I still hear it, especially in the more toxic scenes like Call of Duty, League of Legends, things like that. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's accepted, and you don't hear too many people kind of jump in or say anything about it. Every once in a while, someone will. Like, I'm definitely someone that will, try to say, like, hey, man, that's not cool. Like, what's your problem? Like, just because she kicked your ass, you shouldn't be getting upset. You should just want to train and get better. In fact, you should probably ask her to teach you how to be a better player, and I'm a huge fighting game fan, and I think it's I always say it's one of the areas where, even though characters were in the beginning overly sexualized, I felt there was more diversity when it came to the characters that were brought into fighting games, right? I think like that's where we started to see a lot more female characters that were awesome, even though, they were still kind of dressed, let's just put it that way, just very scantily, right? But they were awesome to play. And like, I'm a huge Street Fighter fan. Like, I'll choose Chun-Li every time like that. She's one of my mains, one of my favorite characters, in Mortal Kombat. In the beginning, I thought Sonya Blade's Kiss of Death was just so cool. And she was someone that was like military background, and they really, built her out as a strong female character in the beginning. And, when you compare her to some of the other fighting games, she wasn't as overly sexualized as like King of Fighters, right? You have like characters like Mai, where she's just moving around. And I thought it was, I'm going to shut up after this, but the most offensive thing that I heard as a guy, I even felt it. And, I want to say there are guys that feel this way, and are offended by some of these things too, was I saw this like 15-minute special on, I guess, boob mechanics and how they wanted to make them look really real when the fighters moved around. I think it was for like Dead or Alive or one of those games. And I'm like, who the F cares? Like, why is this even a thing? And those games, I feel like, they really haven't changed. They sell, the DLC packs to get the girls in like bikinis, for like $20 or whatever. And I'm like, why is this even a thing? Like, it's a fighting game. Like, this isn't, like some hentai site or whatever. But anyway, that's my opinion. Sorry, it was a little long.
No, I definitely agree. I realized that when I was younger and I wanted to dress up like for Halloween as like Poison Ivy or like Harley or like, Jade Katana. And it was like, okay, how am I going to like, I was a 12-year-old girl. Like, I was like, how am I going to make this, friendly? Like, so I just think that they definitely need to reboot like how they portray women, because, like you have like little girls looking up to like, I loved Poison Ivy, and it was like, oh, like I want to cosplay as her, but she's just being very over sexualized, and like she's so much more. But personally, my favorite character is Harley. That's my queen. Like, I really do think that they did like such a good job, like especially in Injustice. Like, they really gave her like a storyline. She wasn't just Joker's sidekick. Like, she actually had a part in a game, which I was very shocked in. And I was like, whenever I play Injustice, there's so much like variety like that you could choose from for like women players, and I really enjoyed that because it kind of sucks playing as a man all the time. Like, I want to kick ass as a girl, but so that's my favorite character. But I really want to hear like y'all's favorite character. So, Katie, what's your favorite? Who's your favorite character in any game?
So it's kind of hard for me because I'm more someone who's like more about just what is the game itself as opposed to like who is you know, who's just the main character or whatever. But I will say I'm a huge Horizon Zero Dawn fan because I love the idea of just the independent woman. Something I didn't want to cut off that Game Dragon earlier, but like another thing that I disliked about games back in the day is like there's a lot of like damsel in distress kind of thing. And for me, I'm just kind of like, you know, like, yeah, you know, there might be part of the game where you have to save someone, but it always seems to be the chick, right? So I like the idea of Aloy, where she's discovering herself. She's trying to figure out what's happening, what happened in the past, what's happening now. How can she overcome this? Like, that speaks to me as an individual, someone who does illustration and freelance. Like, I'm doing that every day. So maybe not as cool as her, but, but you know, it's still inspiring to me. I love seeing that. It's the same way that I love, like, Miyazaki's work, because he's a lot about like strong female characters and not having a damsel in distress. So that's where I am on that.
I love that. No, I really do. Like, I'm so tired of like Rapunzel, let down your, like, no, I'm cool. Like, I'll walk down by myself.
Yeah.
How about you, Catwoman?
For my favorite female character in gaming, it has to be Lara Croft, but it's because of how she turned out. Like, at first she was the weird, I don't know, shaped boobs with those shaped body.
The triangles.
Like this hot woman that runs around doing whatever she wants, you know, like a female Indiana Jones, but like cooler somehow. And then they eventually got to the point where like make this a realistic woman, like a woman that does things like this. So they just turned her into like an actual human. Yeah. And it fits with, you know, what she actually does. So I think she's turned into a very solid character.
Yeah, you know, they didn't have her running in the jungle in like a thong. Like, like, no, I used to love like playing Lara Croft when I was younger. You just like unlocked the memory that I forgot I had. Like, she really was badass. Like, she did it all. Wow. No, yeah. I gotta replay that. How about you, Veda?
I'm super biased to Chun-Li, so glad you said that earlier. Yeah, I know she's my absolute favorite. In a lot of the games, you know, she strives to be the strongest woman in the world, and I've always found that really inspirational because I too would like to be the strongest woman in the world, and to see a female in a fighting video game who's kicking ass and has a dope backstory and awesome outfit that isn't like too crazy. But I don't know, it's just she's definitely my favorite. Like, anytime I pull up Street Fighter, I'm like, I want to play Chun-Li, and I think of her. I don't know, I actually have all like my workout gear. Like, when I'm training for my karate, like, I think, oh, I love Chun-Li. I want to also be like, you know, super strong, just like her. So I think it's really important to have females like that in fighting games, but also in general, that can just inspire a whole wave of young girls to be strong and not be afraid to not be delicate. Like, there's a choice to be made here. It doesn't have to be gendered necessarily.
Yeah, no, I like completely. That's exactly what I was trying to like hint at earlier. I think that we all, like, girls in general, just need more like role. Like, I know that they're not real people, but like they need like role models to look up to. Like, you know, everybody's like, oh, I want to be like Ken. Oh, I want to be like Ryu. Like, you know,
I think another part of that exact topic is the inclusion of diversity in the cast, because if you see a character that looks like you and talks like you and is also badass, then you're going to feel super inspired and motivated to be able to do whatever you want. Anything, you know, sky's the limit at that point. So having females like that, but also diversity within the female characters is really important. So, yeah.
We're like segueing perfectly, right? Like, into the next question. What changes would you guys like to see within like the video game industry? So like, we already, you know, we touched upon like more independent women, more storylines that are like relatable to women, not just boobs out, like butt out. We could start with, since you're already like going along the lines, we could continue with you, Veda.
Okay. So the exact question was, what kind of changes you want to see in the gaming industry?
Yeah.
I really would love to see more females at the decision-making table, like I said earlier, because I feel like that's actually so important to have females in general more in the company, but also in positions of power that can actually influence parts of the game making choices, like parts of the actual marketing of the game, because that's a whole other thing. I know there was a whole thing with I think Assassin's Creed where you could play as a female or male, but the male was getting most of the marketing and the female wasn't, and that kind of sucks. I don't know, who makes those calls in the company exactly, but again, having a female perspective at the table could inform those decisions better, so that you're reaching the widest audience possible and not making anyone feel excluded.
Yeah, I remember I watched this thing. I don't know if you guys remember Temple Run.
Yeah.
There was like this girl, and she wrote to the like head creators of Temple Run, and she asked why like the women characters you have to pay like so many coins with, but the male characters were like there was so much to choose from, and they were all for free. And the like head creator got back to her, and she was actually a woman, and she was like, I genuinely don't even know. Like, and then the little girl, she was like, oh, because it's not fair, like we get the same like robot, like brown hair tied up, cargo pants, whatever, and all these men get so much to choose from. So I think that was like actually really interesting, because it's like little things like that subconsciously like play in your head. Like I played Temple Run all the time, but I just chose the guy because who wants to spend their money on Temple? Like Catwoman.
This sounds very minor, like very minor. Like I think the marketing of like gaming should include more women. Even like, those stupid commercials where people are drinking Mountain Dew and they're like, yeah, Mountain Dew, it's gamer fuel. I think women should be in those commercials too, because when young guys see that and they just see guys playing, and they always see guys playing in commercials, they always see guys advertised as playing games, they only see male characters advertised, they're going to think, why the hell is this woman playing this game? It's for men. Why are women drinking this drink? It's for men. So they're like advertised at a young age trained at a young age to think that this is just for men. So I think if everything like geared towards like, hey, this is for everyone, then it'll kind of make it easier to go online, to buy games, to do everything, like no matter who you are.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely really hard to also find like girl gaming clothes, like like graphic tees and stuff. Like you always got to go to like the men's section of Target or like
or the kids section. I literally cropped this shirt from the kids section, but it's true, like 100%.
No, like it really is. Like it's just so crazy, because I'm sorry, but who wants to wear like a men cut t-shirt? Like sometimes you want like it to fit you nicely. Like you want to be able to wear it like outside.
Even that Nintendo shirt that I had on our last show, I found that in the men's section of Target. So
exactly. Like you go to the women's section, maybe you'll find like a Harley shirt, or like
if you're even lucky for that. Like usually it's just not even like cool comics.
Yeah, and it's like so lame.
Yeah.
But let's get to you, Katie.
So mine, like all good points as well. Mine is more from an industry perspective, as someone who's like trying to break into the industry as an illustrator, someone who would love to work with these games and these movies and whatever else. It's a really intimidating environment. I mean, if you really look into it, there still aren't that many quote unquote big names in the industry. That they're way more now, but there's not as much inclusion for women in those things. Like it's an intimidating process to get into these teams as a female to kind of prove your worth. It's again, it's different now, but in the same way, it's also kind of not. Like there's almost like this barrier at times where you kind of like have to go the extra mile to prove that you can provide the same output as the typical base they already have, which is men. And it can be a little frustrating. Like for me, it's intimidating. Like I don't think I would ever envision working for Blizzard anymore like I once thought I wanted to, because that's a whole nother beast itself. But it's just, you hear so many horror stories of all this like behavior in the industry, and it's like that's exactly why I care about my career and like making it about being treated like a human and not creating all these barriers for people that just want to get into doing something that they love. So I hope to see more of that in the future. See, again, like we've all been saying, see more women at the table. So
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's like it's exactly what you said, the like having to prove yourself. Like of course you were good, like I don't mind proving my skill.
yeah, of course not.
But like if now you're like you want me to prove my knowledge simply because I'm a girl,
yeah,
like that, like it really does beat you down sometimes. Like
yeah.
like I've corrected people. Like I remember one time this kid who was trying to quiz me on like, you know, the DC and Marvel world. He was like, "Oh, well, who would win, Iron Man or Batman?" Because he was like, "I know if Iron Man just came, he would beat Batman's butt or whatever, right?" And I'm like, "Oh, but like they're not even in the same world. So like if it was a crossover," and then he was like, "They are," and I was like, I was like, well, no, like. And so then, like, he had to Google it because he didn't believe me. He was like, "I don't want to talk anymore." I'm like, okay. But you see, like, he's still like, I feel like a lot of men have that like mentality, like, even when we do prove ourselves, even though we shouldn't have to, like, it's still, oh well, she studied that, so she just wants to be like us.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I just enjoy this. So, you know, this is a very like opinionated question. I just want to know what you guys would like to tell like the male allies, the people who want to like actually help towards a more like woman integrated video game world. What would you ask for them to change or do, like that you think would help us get there? We can start with you, Catwoman.
Just to always keep in mind that we like this stuff because we like it. We are never, ever, ever trying to impress a guy by saying, "Oh, I really like Death Stranding," because we all know that most people hated that game for no reason. We are never trying to impress a guy because we like something, because we bought a video game. It's not about impressing someone, it's about doing what we like. And if you just remember we're just trying to have fun like everyone else, then you know we can all coexist, and just to remember we're all on the same page.
Yeah, seriously, like there's no reason why I'm like, "Oh yeah, I love playing Call of Duty," and it's like, "Oh, who taught you, your boyfriend?" I was like, first of all, I've been playing that since I was like 10. Like how about you, Katie?
For me, it's especially about community, I feel like right now. Again, the reigning theme for me is just like I've literally gamed since I can remember, but it has gotten better, but at the same time, there's still plenty of toxicity involved with being a female involved in these communities. I do a lot of group content. I do a lot of higher up content in the games that I play. And even now, sometimes it's really hard for our voice to be heard because like you have all these dudes that are like, they'll strategize about this particular thing, this fight, these stats for their character, etc. And oftentimes the female voice, they're all just kind of like, you can hear the eye roll over the mic, you know, like it gets a little frustrating because you want to have your input acknowledged as well. You want to feel like you can be knowledgeable about what you're playing as well because you're also good. They'll tell you you're good, but then they don't want to hear the reasons why you're good or how you can like help contribute to this topic, and that can be frustrating. So I like the idea of dudes being a little more open to like female inclusion just in the conversation in general, whatever it is.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like the amount of times I played Call of Duty and it's like, oh, the girls on our team. I'm like,
yeah.
Like, but then I'd be at like the top of the leaderboard. Like, how about you, Vita?
So I have a couple things because when this question was first brought up, I thought a little critically about it. I was like, you know, what can we do besides putting women in the decision-making area? Because that obviously takes time to climb the ladder and all that. But I think we need to make space at events, especially because a lot of people watch, you know, E3 or Summer Games Fest or GDC, like all these other gaming events, and if your whole panel is all male and every single panel is like that, which it has historically been like that, you're not getting the variety of perspectives that would really benefit a conversation. So and I had someone do this for me where it was an all male event, a panel that he was asked to speak on, and he actually specifically reached out to me and another female and asked, hey, do you want to be on this panel? I'm willing to give up my spot. I'm not saying that males should give up their spots, but they should think maybe there's a little imbalance here. Maybe the discussion could really benefit from a female perspective, and it's something to think about. Maybe consider reaching out. I also think that in a team, you want to be as diverse as possible. So keeping that in mind when you're making decisions about who to hire or who to bring on, it's just very valuable to have different perspectives. And also calling out the bad behavior. I think that's a really important one because it's really easy to just stay quiet about these things. But I've experienced personally people commenting rude things on my posts, and it's sometimes all you can really get out of a situation is validation that you're not wrong for liking the things you like. You're not a fake gamer just because you posted what you liked. Sometimes it feels nice for someone to be like, yeah, they were being an asshole, so obviously there's more to be done, but I think that validation counts for a lot. But I think my main takeaway is to just make space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you, especially the, not that guys should give up their spots, but like they shouldn't have to give up their spot. There should already be spots for women, like given.
Right.
Like that should be like off rip. Like we have 4 women, we have 4 men, like there, and also like calling out the bad behavior because, like one, you wouldn't talk to your mother with that mouth. Like you would not tell your mother to go back to the kitchen. Like I know that for a fact. You would not tell your sister that. You would like, So I think that like, because I feel like guys are so comfortable with making those comments because of the fact that they know that like, they think that other guys are like in the same like boat mentality with them. So I feel like once like they've realized like, oh, like I'm the one being ostracized, absolutely not. Like they're gonna stop saying that, and then like it'll be like a domino effect. Like no more make me a sandwich comments. Like
I understand it's also difficult maybe from there because I try to see both sides of the issue. Sometimes there is no other side, but maybe in their friend group, if they are the one that's sticking up for the opposite perspective, they'll get made fun of, they'll get trashed, they'll have all their friends saying, oh come on man, like what are you, and then insert derogatory term here. So I understand that it can be difficult, but it does require a certain level of bravery and courage to actually stand up for something that is important to other people in your life, like the other women in your life that you value. So kind of like mustering up that courage to actually stand up for these things that are important
exactly.
counts for a lot. Yeah.
I'd be like, you want to play as Batman? You gotta act like Batman. Like Batman would not let that slide. So those were the end of my questions. But let's take it back to Dragon. And after all that you've heard and all of our opinions, our wonderful, wonderful, amazing intellectual opinions, what have you taken from this?
There's a lot, actually. And, one thing I want to say, first of all, to the folks that are listening, I feel personally honored to, know each and every one of you, not because you're women in gaming, but because you're gamers and amazing, gamers, and you care about what's happening in the industry and you care about what's going on. And I think, I would love to get to a place in our lifetime where, we're not trying to check off boxes. We've normalized these behaviors, and without having to have a D&I specialist, diversity inclusion specialist, come down from HR and say, "Hey, you really should have or consider a few more women or a few more minorities in what's happening or what you're setting up," and it just becomes a common behavior. The toxicity is terrible in some cases, and Veda, I know you were saying that like you get it from that perspective, but that perspective from men, I think, needs to stop, right? We need to start calling out the behaviors when they happen, regardless of whether you'll get ridiculed by your friends or not. Because if your friends are ridiculing you, well, that lets you know what type of people they are. If this is how they think women should be treated, if this is how they think a common behavior is, and yeah, like, I get it. Everybody, jokes around in a group and, whatever, but that's, until we start stopping things as they happen, they're going to continue to happen. And until we say enough's enough and stop asking, like, it's, oh, can you please do this? And start saying, like, no, this is what needs to be done. I don't think, we're going to get to where we need to be. I think that's why it's so important, to have these type of conversations, because, when we hear that EA and, Epic and all these companies are trying to move the needle on diversity and inclusion and bring more women to the table, bring more minorities to the table, that's not something that you can touch and feel as a gamer on the ground, right? You hear it, it's a story, it goes away. But if you hear stories from the people that you're interacting with, if you hear the stories of how it offends people, how it can hurt people, how, hey, women gamers are just as awesome, and sometimes in some cases even more awesome than the people in the same room with you, I think that's what we need to get to. And I know, like I said, I know I'm not perfect. I've had to learn over time, right? You got to remember, I played Legend of Zelda, and I thought the story was about Zelda, but it was really about Link rescuing Zelda, right? And I was like, why is it called The Legend of Zelda? And I distinctly remember an older kid telling me, well, because, that's the princess, and you always have to save the princess, right? Look at Mario, look at The Legend of Zelda. And so, it was something that was cultural in the beginning, I think, in gaming, right? It was always save the princess, save the princess. And I know some guys have good intentions, but I try to explain to folks that I talk to, because in my other life, I'm like a coach, for technology organizations. I try to teach them leadership behaviors. And I tell them all the time, women don't need a knight in shining armor to come in and save them. What they need you to do is give them a voice. They will speak for themselves, and they will move things forward. They don't need a savior, and I stress that to everyone. Yeah, it's cool for you to call people up, but we don't need saviors. We need people that are going to open and clear paths for action, right? And are going to stand side by side as equals with women, and not as this knight or hero that's coming like, I'm going to save you, follow me and I will open a panel seat for you. No, they need someone that's going to stand there and say, I'm not going to, like you said before, Veda, I'm not going to attend this panel if you're not going to distribute it equally, amongst women, amongst minorities, amongst other people at the table. It should just be, a bunch of old men, in their 50s that are running things, right? So that's it. I said a lot. Again, I apologize. It's hard for me to stay quiet. This is why I'm on YouTube and social media, because I can't shut up. But I want to say I really appreciate y'all coming on here and telling your truths and telling your stories. I think it's so important. And continue to tell us how we can help. Continue to tell us what we need to do. Let's not stand idly by. If we see something that is wrong, let's call it out in the game room. Let's write to these game creators. Let's say the things that need to be said to move the industry forward. And I think that will start opening, the right paths and putting things where they need to be.
Yeah, and call people out, because they can handle it. If they can tell me, like, shut up, you don't even play this game, like, we could call them out. Like, my little brother knows how to behave better than some of these grown men. Like, I beat him plenty of times. That man cannot touch me on Mario Kart. But like, he never ever has like called me on my name or like, said anything out of like, maybe he's like, oh, I'm never playing with you again. But like, he's he's a teenager. Like if a teenager can control himself, a grown man can. So that's that's what I hope for the male allies to do. Also, like, just don't be afraid. Like, you want to save the princess, then at least stand up for us. Like, but thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate it. I'm definitely, gonna be looking at your pages intently, and I'll be there to gas you up. And don't worry if I see somebody commenting something rude, I'm gonna come back at them. So it's okay. Y'all got the Instagram police right here.
I appreciate it.
Don't forget to check them out, you guys. Dragon's gonna link their Instagrams and their socials. These are really, really amazing women. And again, I'm also honored that I got to ask you guys these questions and hear your answers. They were actually very, very eye-opening.
Yeah, no, this was amazing, and I have to stress, because Catwoman, it's got like I think a fraction of her collection displaying right now. Like, yeah, she's got awesome stuff going on.
My PS2.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's just I've seen different sections of this collection over time in photographs, and it's just amazing. And then Veda, Jesus, I don't know. Like, I think you built a bike recently, right? Like, is that something you posted?
Yeah, motorcycle. I mean, a lot of it is custom, so I have like new exhaust on it. Well, I won't bike talk, but yes, I have a bike, and I like it. And it's named after Penny Tina. Thank you.
I love the way she just casually says, "Yeah, like it's something that anybody can do." I mean, it that is a different, and that's only one thing. I think, or you like kickboxing or something. Like I know these are things karate. I've seen and so karate, law, kickboxing, video games,
all over the place. Yeah,
I'm scared to play you in Street Fighter now. I'm gonna have to
hone
my skills.
I'm not good. I like to think I am, but I still need to practice. I just need to nail down that spinning bird kick all day.
and Katie, like I've had the pleasure of seeing your illustrations and talking a little bit of comics with you, and you've built that beastly machine. And maybe you and I can talk some World of Warcraft, because I tried to play the lone warrior, and I've never found my pack, right? And that's why I left that world. And so maybe you could give me some pointers so I don't get bored running around this massive landscape and can make some cool friends. But for everyone else listening, I did forget to mention one thing. I actually live with an amazing gamer. My wife, she is a killer in Call of Duty, and it's funny because people always think she's a little boy when she's playing. When they hear her voice, they're like, "Shouldn't you go to bed, little boy?" And she's like, "I'm a grown woman. I can probably be your mother." And she goes out there and she runs and guns and she kills it. Like she puts my numbers to shame sometimes. And it's like one of those things I'm like, wow, they're really in for a world of pain at the moment. And so, I am very fortunate to be, friends with a lot of amazing women gamers. And I hate to reduce it to a gender, because they're just amazing gamers. Like we talk about stuff, and it's just awesome to have a tribe of folks that understands what you love and what you like, and that's what it needs to really be about. We need to see this as our tribes that we can come to and stop creating all this division based on all these crazy things, right? Like, let's just have fun. It's video games. They were created for us to play together and enjoy, regardless of who's on the other side of the screen. And that's what it needs to be. And so, young gamers, if you're listening and you are engaging in toxic behaviors, cut that shit out. Stop it. Nobody is waving a flag for you and saying, "Yeah, you got them." No, they're actually looking at you like you're a jerk, right? And they may not say it, but that's what they're thinking, right? Older gamers, like me, like, hey man, not everybody is, put that mindset of saving the princess behind you. These are our partners, they're our equals, and we need to battle for each other, right? And make sure we're supporting one another, right? Because people as passionate as us should always support one another. And so let's normalize this and turn it into actual culture. That being said, thank you, everybody. I hope you're all going to have an amazing July 4th weekend. Get plenty of gaming in. I'm going to be playing some Disgaea 6. For those of you who are not, big in the RPG or SRPG world, well, look it up. I'll put a video out soon. Check out our video yesterday for what are fig pins, right? So if you're thinking about collecting them, we did a great video yesterday for that. And hopefully you will see these ladies on other shows that we throw on, because they have so much information. We can only pack so much into close to an hour. So, and again, appreciate you all. Thank you once again, Des Barbs, amazing job at co-hosting. Thank you for helping us out.
Having me.
And we're gonna call it a night. Please hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell, smack it so you get every single piece of content we get. Leave your comments and questions. If you have comments or questions for any of the ladies here today, make sure they're respectful, fellas, please. I will make sure that I forward it to them and they will reach out to you if it's, again, something respectful. So, thank you once again. Y'all have a good night. I'm that Game Dragon. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank